let's get into Alone Against the Flames. So, Alone Against the Flames is set up a lot like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but with dice rolls, right? So sometimes it's not enough to be like, I want to do A or B. Sometimes it's a matter of, do my stats support me trying to do this? Let me roll the dice and see what happens. So there's just a short introduction, and just for sake of being thorough, we'll go through that. This is a solo adventure for the Call of Cthulhu game. It is a horror story set in the 1920s where you are the main character and your choices determine the outcome. It is also designed to lead you through the basic rules of the game in a gradual and entertaining fashion. Yeah, I know I just said that, but it said it better. Although most such adventures are played with your friends, this one is just for you when you're sitting at home on a Thursday night, all alone with your cat. You don't need to read the rules before you start playing. Just settle into a comfortable chair, got that, before a roaring fire, have to pass, then read on and follow the instructions. On second thoughts, don't sit too close to the fire. Now that is a literary technique we call foreshadowing. Number 1. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It is a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It has been a long summer here in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher shop, the grocer's with its fading awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham. Not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you're doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Go to 263. Alright, 263. So far we have established that just like the person playing the game alone with their cat on a Thursday night, that we are alone and lonely. And none of our friends came to see us off. And well, what kind of friends are those indeed? We've also determined that I cannot quickly flip through a book, so this is there's certain skills needed with any RPG, and apparently this is one needed for this. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He is a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem. Yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket for Usipi. From there, you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth, before the coastal line to Newburyport, and finally, Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way, otherwise this will be the first of many long bus trips. The driver scratches the match and lights his cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw, then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Look at your investigator sheet. Well, let's look at our investigator sheet. At the top, you have 5 spaces for 8 characteristics. Or you have You have spaces for your characteristics: strength, constitution, power, dexterity, appearance, size, intelligence, and education. Allocate the following values among them, writing in the large square beside each: 40, 50, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 80. If you would like more information on what these stats mean, I do not. I think we have this mostly figured out, right? And if not, well, I'm sorry. Anyway, so let's see. What kind of investigator do I want to make? Well, I think this new job in Arkham, I think it's going to take some intelligence. Let's make that our 80. I want to know things. Okay, so next up we have a 70 and a 60. You know, I think not only do I know things, I think I'm pretty good looking too. We're gonna put that 70 in appearance. Then we have two 60s, three 50s, and a 40. So let's see here. Well, you know, now that I'm looking at this, we're going to turn that appearance into a 60. Still pretty good, but we want to be well educated, so we're going to put a 70 there. Alright, so we got the 80, 70, 60. We got one more 60 to go. And we're going to put that in power. I think there's a little bit of will to me. I think I perhaps am a little connected with the esoteric strangeness of the world. Alright, so that leaves us with three 50s and a 40. So I guess the real decision here is, what do I want to be 40? Well, I'm not real big. Hopefully that doesn't come to haunt me. So that means we are going to have a strength of 50, a dexterity of 50, a power of 60, constitution of 50, appearance of 60, education of 70, size of 40, and intelligence of 80. So now that we've done that, we're going to go to section 8. Yeah, I'm kind of seeing this character come to life a little bit. I think maybe the reason all their friends came up is, you know, they're a big nerd, and I accept you, big nerd, but your friends don't. Well, I say big. You're kind of small. You're a small nerd. I think you're cool. The driver smokes and watches you as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38. Well, great. That really came to haunt me really quick. Now, you may have heard me mention that I have played this scenario before. It's been a while. I don't remember it real well, so I promise you this was not intentional. Also, I definitely do not remember it real well at all. You struggle for a few seconds before the driver comes up beside you and lends a hand, still puffing on his cigarettes. "Heavy bags for a small one," he remarks. You judge it's best to respond with a simple thanks. Not really liking this driver, just so we're clear. You know, it's there before Lyft. I can't even 2-star this guy. It's just kind of, this is what I got. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of this trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it, too, is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see 2 smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic value. Have each value rounding down and right. I don't think I have that on this character sheet. And I think that's absolutely okay. Basically, what this is telling me is that there's basically 3 levels of success to Call of Cthulhu. There's a regular success. For a regular success, it's all D100 rolls, right? So for regular success, you just have to roll beneath the stat or the skill in question. So if you do, great, you succeed. If not, blah. I might not have the terminology exactly right, so bear with me. There is a hard success, and for a hard success, you have to get under half that value. So let's say we go with my intelligence, the biggest thing I got, with an 80. Half of that is 40, so the hard success, I would have to roll under 40, so it's definitely a lot more difficult. And then there is an extreme success, which, right, it is 1/5, sorry. It has been a hot sec. It is 1/5 of the score. So if we go back to intelligence of 80, 1/5 of that is going to be, that's strangely difficult for me at the moment. 16, right? Don't watch this. I'm having an embarrassing math moment. Yeah, okay, no, it would be 16. I was completely correct. Everything's great. Just edit that part out later. Anyway, in the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original PAL, and beginning magic points are the same as the value you've just assigned for PAL divided by 5. Mark those in a track. Alright, so our sanity is going to be 60. That is not the worst thing ever. Sanity, where are you at? Oh yeah, this is gotta be it. Okay. Max sanity. Okay, so max sanity is 60, and then magic points are that divided by 5. Oh, look at that. It already filled it in for me. Gotta love Roll20 character sheets. Okay, so now we've done that little bit of bookkeeping. Going to 134. The coach putters through the countryside. Let's get some puttering, shall we? At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. The leaves are turning, and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Add size and con together and then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value of your hit points. So size, we got 40. And con, we got 50. That is going to be 90. So we're going to divide that by 10, which means it's going to be 9. Hey, look at that. Roll20 already did it for me. Your current total may drop, but is unlikely to exceed the starting value. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. We call this 3d6. Multiply your 3d6 roll by 5 to get your beginning luck score and mark it on your character sheet. Well, let's get some dice going, huh? Alright, so we got 6. Well, we got 1. And another 6. Okay, that could have been worse. So 3d6 multiplied by 5, so 13 times 5 is going to be 65. 65 luck. There are, like, really worse things in life. Okay, luck, where you at? Right here you are. Okay, 65. Luck is a pretty cool resource in Call of Cthulhu. And now to the action. You must make a roll against your dex. Roll d100. If it's equal to the dex, I pass. If it's less than the dex, I fail. Okay, and after that it goes on to admonish you for the tendency of, well, this is a solo game. You might skip such rolls and just choose to better action, but I have all these people watching to keep me honest. Okay, let's get those D100s going. 36, and that is definitely going to be less than my dex of 50, so that is going to be a success. So, in case anyone forgot the last 5 seconds, the coach took a really hard turn and lurched about, and that is why we're making this roll. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel, and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab hold of the seat in front just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road, and your driver has had to swerve to avoid the steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat in the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance? But the driver's already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads around the tractor, glaring at the camera. Yeah, that whole, what do I do with my hands? I feel like we can all relate to that awkward situation. Is this my conflict to even get involved in? It is not. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fella was dumb within a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he is driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your character and record it on your investigator sheet. You may add your age for purposes of this adventure. Your character should probably be between 23 and 36. Well now. So, I do a lot of writing, and also a lot of world building, mostly for Dungeons and Dragons, for all kinds of things. And I have to come up with a lot of names, and I always thought that someday it would get easier. It has not. So that said, what is Albert McCraggy? Yeah, Albert McCraggy is going to be taking this journey to Arkham. Albert McCraggy at the tender age of, let's see, what did it suggest? Between 23 and 36. I'll make him 25. It's a good age. It's a good age for Albert McCraggy. The coach turns into a narrow road which weaves uphill through woodlands. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, huh? Can't say I've ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? Special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. A job, eh? What's your line? Choose an occupation for your character from the following options. If you're an antiquarian, go to 102. If you're a doctor of medicine, go to 226. If you're a journalist, go to 239. If you're a private investigator, go to 249. If you're a professor, go to 265. You know, I think out of all of those, that a professor sounds the most pleasing to me, being as I went with so much intelligence and education. Not to say that any of those other occupations wouldn't benefit from that, but, gotta make a choice based on something. You explain you're joining the faculty at the renowned Miskatonic University. It's only a junior position, with teaching and tutoring duties, but the institution is well regarded. Who knows where the appointment might lead? A symposium, a visiting lectureship, even one of those world-spanning expeditions. Silas wrinkles his nose. I had enough of book learning when I was young, and still I suppose well enough for those like it. Thanks, Silas. Your credit rating skill is 30%. That's right. In Call of Cthulhu, you have credit rating as a skill. Hey, that's not bad considering my real life one. Alright, occupational skills are library use, their language, own language, or psychology. We also pick 4 others. There goes traffic in the real world. Okay, so now we are allocating some values to some skills. Alright, so first off, let's check the ones I mentioned. We got library use. Excellent. Other language. What other language do we want to know? And I don't see the spot for it, so we're going to put it over here, which may not be correct. We're going to know German. We're going to spell it right. There we go. Okay, so library use, German. It'd probably be good if I kept a better... I'm not saying I lost my place on the page, but I lost my place on the page. Okay, there we go. Thank you all for your patience. Okay, so library use of the language, own language, oh good, and psychology. Okay, now we're going to pick 4 other skills that aren't Cthulhu mythos as relevant academic and personal specialties. Okay, well let's see. We've determined that I am a small nerd. You know, I've dealt with bullies, and I don't think that has done anything for me physically whatsoever. But I learned to talk myself out of some things, so we're going to go with fast talk. So that's a good one. I think I've studied some history before. That seems really reasonable. And, you know, I said I didn't do anything physical, but let's do some dodge, you know? I don't think I fought back well, but I think I got really good at being out of the way. And I think I'm perceptive. Let's give myself some spot hidden. I've seen things. Okay, so now we're gonna put some values in those. So starting with 70. Let's get 70 in that library use. I think I am super good at using the library. That's right, kids. Call of Cthulhu, where you use a library, which seems strange at first, but it is a game more about mystery than action, and is set in the 1920s, so Google wasn't really an option. Going to newspaper offices, libraries, historical societies, and rummaging through their often ill-kept records, that's where it's at. Alright, so moving along from that, after the 70 we have a 60. Let's put that 60 in history. And we have another 60. Now I feel honestly like I might be metagaming a little bit. When I do this, we're going to put a 60 in dodge too. Does that make sense narratively? I'm not really sure, but I don't want to get hit. So now we got 3 50s and 2 40s. So we're definitely going to put a 50 in the spot hidden. We're definitely going to put a 50 in German. Let's put a 50 in fast talk. And then we got our 2 40s. So my own language and psychology. Oh, I do kind of want to know better psychology. Is there somewhere I want to pull something from? Okay, I need to do it. We're going to switch history and psychology. Psychology is going to get a 60. History is going to get a 40. Alright. So just give me a moment here, if you would. Alright, so moving on from that. A whole new section. Soon this character creation is going to be done, and it's going to be all about the going mad, so we have that to look forward to. You realize silence has made a stop since incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests the ridge and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek sneaks through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into a hazy cloud. There is no settlement, not even a cabin as far as your eyes can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be two white-tailed deer lingering by the water. I'm sure that's a good omen, right? Perhaps you were making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills listed in brackets after the skill name and investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half your dex. Fantastic, so that's already accounted for on the sheet. Choose 4 skills which are not your occupation skills nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are personal interests. Boost each of these by 20. Great. Alright, so we got 4 to put 20 in. I was on the swim team, right? So let's boost that by 20, give it a good 40. Listen. Yeah. So we're going to boost that by 20 to make that 40. I think I know enough law. Studied a lot of things, you know. Intimidate? Nah. No, not for Albert McCraggy. Albert McCraggy is not the intimidating type. What would be fun? Oh, the tea kettle out in the wilderness. That's good. Okay. It's Call of Cthulhu. I've obviously studied some occult. You know, there's books in libraries that maybe you aren't supposed to read. I got into a few of those. It happens. It's fine. Whatever. Okay. So, now on to 144. Oh, wait. I think there's other things I had to calculate in. Oh, that's it. Okay. I really think that might be the end of character stuff. The motor coach rattles on through the hills, and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view, a settlement on the crest of the hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee? But perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop, so you can stretch your legs. 5 minutes later, a harsh shuddering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill till you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. He must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto, no, or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than a skill. If it's Psychology, you need a hard success, so that's going to be half the skill. Alright, so we are going to go Psychology, and our Psychology is a 60, so that means we're going to need to roll a 30 or less, which we did not do. Okay, so not noticing anything fishy here, so fail the roll. Silas opens the engine compartment. Oh, that's some bad writing there. Silas opens the engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components and withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hands on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey, and a night in a rickety couch sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead, miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keep a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley. Turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning. We'll see how's we stand. To look for May Ledbetter's house, go to 267. To ask Silas where he'll spend the night, go to 251. To challenge Silas about the breakdown, go to 257. Well, I don't really see a good reason to challenge Silas here. He's been nothing but trustworthy in that great accent that he speaks in. I like to take care of business first. Let's go see May Ledbetter. Oh, May Ledbetter has a cat. That's nice. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary considering you've spent all day sitting down. Silas' directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in a neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. I'm sure this will go well. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and a wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish lilt. Oh, a slight Irish lilt for Albert McCraggy. Oh, she's got the kettle on, too. Look at that. It's great. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a nice cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Amberhead for the festival? Asks May. To explain what happened with Silas in the coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival, go to 21. Well, I mean, if I'm going to be stuck here, what festival? Well, now I suppose the festival is about the only reason folks come to Amberhead. I thought you had come here to study it or take photographs. Well, it's not tomorrow night, but the night after. I suppose it looks very strange to a passerby. May tops up your tea. The spout clinks against your cup. We've got the beacon, you see. One night every year there's a torchlit procession and we light the beacon on the cliffs. You've never seen the likes of it. They say it keeps the spirit of the village alive for another year. It's a celebration. A celebration. She tails off a moment and blinks. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low, you accept it without hesitation. The room is small, but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. To talk to May some more, go to 31. To walk around and get your bearings, go to 75. To turn in for an early night, go to 63. Well, let's see what this town is that we have ended up here in. Alright, so that is going to be 75. Maybrow creases when you announces your intention to take a stroll. Mind how you go, she said. Amberhead's surrounded by cliffs, and we don't have that fancy street lamps here. Take your lantern and watch your step. Outside, you see what she means. The sky is overcast, and only a few glimmers of moonlight peek from the clouds. Without the heavy lantern, you would be walking in near total darkness. You cannot hope to get an overview of the village tonight. May Street is a narrow passage hemmed in by squat, dark buildings. At the end, however, it opens up. A wide thoroughfare leads off to the right. A crude sign names it Silbury Street. To the left, a few yards away, your light picks out the crooked post of a simple fence. And beyond that, the ground drops away into darkness. You take a couple of steps closer, but you can see nothing. Air from below cools your face. And then some instinct makes you look around. An ink-black figure stands in the road, about 20 yards behind you. It stares at you. You form the sudden impression that it will run at you and throw you over the cliff edge. This is unsettling. Seeing it has been spotted, the figure slips down an alley. To return to the safety of the Ledbetter house, go to 100. To confront a dark figure, go to 121. Let's confront this figure. Let's see what this is all about. As you approach, the figure takes a pace back, then another. It slips down an alley between two buildings. To catch your target, you must make a track roll. If you succeed, go to 141. If you fail, go to 130. Well, this is fun. Our track is 10%. And an 88 is very far over 10%. The figure moves fast with almost silent steps. You are hampered with a heavy lantern in an unfamiliar environment. You emerge from an alley into a dusty courtyard and can detect no sign of a quarry. You scratch around for a few minutes, but the figure is gone. It seems unwise to continue your stroll through unknown dark streets while this threatening presence is abroad. You head back to the Ledbetter house. May lets you in and settles back into her chair. Soon she begins to yawn. I believe I'll turn in. When would you like your breakfast? I'm in town for a few hours and already someone's calling me. I'm sure that's just my paranoia, actually, lest I get very excited. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is the wooden door securely closed. May tuts. The young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth, come and greet our guest. There's a short pause and the door opens. Two wide eyes peer at you from the gap between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth, 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment, all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It is a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean, and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in town for so long, but you soon drop off. Well, we've made it overnight. That's worth something, right? You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscope inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking the sleep from your eyes. It is quite cold. If you have taken any damage, I have not, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you to eat in peace. At about 7:30, you're all paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best in your new career in Arkham. So it's good, I'm ready to get back on the road again. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, I did not, so otherwise go to 192. I can only wonder what that might have been. You are already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sour puss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand the vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch, still 20 minutes early, and round the first corner, the motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There is no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts, but you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose? May is doing the laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forget something. When you explain the situation, she offers us to store your bags while you try and arrange alternative transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find someone with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He may know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank me and turn to face the village. Well, that was unexpected. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land and then turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open, grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliff. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. You may now ask about transport at the local general store, seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, examine the large metal structure, explore the church, look for local people with their own transport needs. So I think we're going to go look at that metal structure, because that seems odd, doesn't it? You walk up the approach, the most central of the village major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of nearby buildings, you're greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron, singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up at a central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but is now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes. Are you here for the festival? He asks. That's the beacon. When they light it, night after next, you'll be able to see it 10 miles away. He gives a little nod of satisfaction and moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion. But you really must head to Arkham soon. Ooh, make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 69. Nice. Otherwise, go to 25. Alright, so our spot hidden is 25. Nope, I'm a liar. 50. So, got half a chance to make this. And a 33 is going to do it. Excellent. As you walk away from the iron structure, you notice something strange about the construction of the village. All the wooden dwellings are concentrated in the west and southwest. To the east and northeast, closest to the beacon, the buildings are formed from dark brick and clay. Does this mean the settlement begins at the beacon and spreads west? Moving on. I'm just kind of wondering if the thing's closest to the beacon is the fire that big that wood would catch. Whatever the case, it seems this beacon is pretty important. You begin to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? You may choose another option from below. Do not repeat a previous choice. Ask about transport, seek out the village hall, walk down to a lower level church, look for local people with their own transport needs. Let's seek out the village hall. I mean, it seems like maybe this might be our one-stop trip to get this solved. If anyone would know, what's the town elder? Is that a thing? The village hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex which serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year, says a gray-garbed woman passing by. Best come back this afternoon. You ask whether the office has a telegraph. Don't know, she shrugs. Who would we call? You'll have to try again later. The townsfolk here are being the most unhelpful, helpful bunch that I ever did see. Well, if we can't get into the town hall, let's go check out the general store, see if they know anything about transport. The general store is on a corner beside the main road, just before it plunges to the south. The shopkeeper is a brisk, immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport? There's a motor coach. Comes through twice a week. Missed it? Truck brings in my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due until next week. She shrugs. It seems Emberhead is content to keep its distance from the outside world. And I could buy some items here, but I don't think that's really going to be useful. Well, look for local people with their own transport needs. Let's try that. I mean, this might be my last chance to get out of here. Not far from the Ledbetter House on the north side of Silbury Street, there's an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you've seen yet in Emberhead. It is bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some only rough huts. A blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you a moment before returning to his shuttle. A potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their own space, exchanging friendly banter. Seems really idyllic. You move along the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to villagers. You receive no suggestions about alternative transport. Make a psychology roll. Okay, yeah, let's make a psychology roll. So that is a 60% for me. This is a good roll to be making. And a 42 is going to succeed. One of the workshops is shut up. When you stray close to it, the repartee between the craftspeople becomes awkward, almost forced. Interesting. Well, I feel like something happened there. Interesting indeed. Well, we tried the general store, we tried the village hall. We just got the church and the lower level left. Well, churches are never creepy. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze lights on a large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes, Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at this thing. It seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence, and the floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint which once covered the church has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against a wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There's really not much to interest here. I'm making a ride roll, R-I-D-E, which is, I really don't know why, but it is giving me a bonus dice. For anyone familiar with D&D, it's kind of like advantage. So I'm going to roll that first higher dice twice. The downside is my ride skill's a 5. So I doubt this is going to go well. So even if I roll a 0 right now, I'm not going to make it. A 0-9, which is kind of close. Oh, you know what? It is kind of close. You can spend luck at a 1-for-1 point to change these rolls. I don't think it said that anywhere in this book so far, but I know that's a Call of Cthulhu rule, so we're going to pretend that it did. I feel that's fair. right? So we're going to spend 4 luck points, bringing luck down to 61. So I'm really curious why I'm doing that. The interior smells of earth and decay, but you catch on an additional distinctive whiff about the place. The scent of horses. You search around a dark corner, find both the remnant of a hoof mark and some dried droppings. The ruined church was used as a stable and quite recently. Where are the horses now? Are they hiding the horses from me? I mean, And you know, I'm going to be honest. I have not seen these things before playing this scenario, so I'm definitely treading some new ground this time around. I don't know what's happening. Well, last but not least, let's go down to the lower level and check that out. The air is fresh, and a walk down to the lower ridge invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowland around Emberhead, and among the crops some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your journey onward on foot? Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here, with signs of habitation. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, a door opens and an older man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit, but carries a piece of cloth which he tosses over his head like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and frees. Make a luck roll. Well, maybe I didn't want to lower my luck, but I still got 61, so an 89 is not going to do it. That is unfortunate. Okay, well, I don't know why this guy's tossing this over his head, but I'm going to be unlucky about it. The strange man breaks into a run, fleeing from you along the ridge. His gait is lopsided, but his movements have a maniacal intensity. You give chase, turn to 150. If you have better things to do, turn to 160. I don't have anything better to do. There's some suspicious things going on here. I've made some good enough rolls to realize that. Maybe this was the guy who was following me last night. I don't know. You break from the road and pursue the man, fleeing wild grass snatch at your feet. He sprints around the ridge, attempting to elude you behind the very rocks that support the metal structure high above. To catch the man, you must make an oppose roll with your versus his dex. I imagine that was supposed to say with your dex versus his dex. The man has a dex of 38. He scores his hard success and roll 19 or under, extreme of 7 or under. Make the man's dex roll and then make your dex roll. Okay. First, his dex roll, which unfortunately is good. So he's just going to score a regular success. My dex is a 50. So if I get a 25 or under, I'm going to be doing great. But I don't. I fail. Womp. Womp. Alright, so we have failed. This weirdo is getting away. You round an outcrop to find a man has disappeared. The ridge extends much further to the west, and the outer edge leads to a dangerous drop. You have lost him. You may make a hard spot hidden roll. Oh yeah, I was going to do that. Alright, 25%. Nope. I cannot make a hard spot hidden roll. That is a lie. I can try. I'm going to fail. Oh, hold on. That's not where I was. You turn back to the road in your core business, getting out of Emberhead and onwards toward Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from where you can see the course of the road. It winds with the hills, disappearing into woodlands for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere towards a second patch of woodland. By your best estimation, there's at least 6 or 7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you will need supplies before you attempt it. Well, we've tried all the options there, and none of us got out of this town. Your morning exertions have left you hungry, I can relate. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There's nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown or anything that might be called a restaurant. It's beginning to look like you're going to have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up at your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face and she looks several years older. Get out before the festival, she hisses. Get out. She blinks hard and then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping her arms around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. How are you getting on? Have you found transport? Startled, you explain the frustration of the situation. I try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in the afternoon. You'll be hungry by now? Help yourself to any food in the house. The door's not locked. You glance at Ruth, where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. If you ask Ruth about what she said, go to 9. If you ask May about what she said, go to 15. If you say nothing, go to 22. I'm hoping there's going to be a chance to ask her later because I don't really feel good about blowing up her spot right now. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers you a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, was that Emberhead Street hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there's still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and bare essentials from your luggage and set out in hopes of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winters. Well, we haven't seen Mr. Winters yet. Maybe we should try him out. Let's go to that village hall. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There's no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push to the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to the right is marked private. To your left, an opening leads to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the wall, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the window. Let's look at the notice boards. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used for a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. Telegraph. There's nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly services and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. At best you can tell, they depict fireworks. Or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the Book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead. Or might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden roll. Spot hidden is 50. Oh, and a 65. We're not going to see it. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain your visit on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Ah, well, I'm Clyde Williams. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and was presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair, and well-tailored even though it is cut a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. To ask about the telegraph immediately, go to 56. To make small talk with Mr. Winters first, go to 49. Well, I feel like I am panicked, and I want to know about that telegraph. But I'm starting to get a little suspicious. I feel like maybe discretion, better part of valor, and all that, more flies with honey, or piquet, idiom. The pub begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winters. Living here? It's a trade-off like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler. And the cities. His face wrinkles in his taste. Too many people. Everybody rushing and shouting. We have a special place here, Nipperhead, and so one must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out the landscape around the village. We have peace up here, halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is this not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. Seems like a good time to ask about the telegraph. The telegraph? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I repaired the fault, of course, but of course, they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I reported the fault, but of course, my apologies. I'm expecting repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps he might engage a wagon. One of the farmers might explain to you if ask you the residents are ready, but to no avail. I'll tell you what. Winters pours a steaming cup of coffee to darken which smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, ask if they could take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow, it's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. To thank Winters and leave, go to 180. To ask about his library, go to 62. Well, I'm going to be bored here, and I like reading. You make a small but flattering remark about a couple of the volumes on the shelf. Winter blushes with pleasure. Well, of course, they're not my personal collection. They belong to the village. But I did select most of the recent items. This is the community's library, you see. I put up a private sign to stop people just wandering in from meetings in the other room. But this is really a public space. You scan the shelves. There is a sparse but respectable collection of mathematics and sciences, passable sections on history and arts, and a shelf of literature. He has a few lowbrow novels tucked away in a corner with tatty copies of Bizarre Tales magazine. Nice. Quality does not always equate to popularity, I'm afraid. Winters gives you an apologetic smile. Man, gatekeepers. To take the time for some research in the library, go to 68. Yeah. Otherwise, I could leave. What's that going to get? Winters is happy for you to spend the rest of the afternoon in study and offers you an upright but comfortable chair. You have enough time to peruse one line of research in depth. History of the area. Read about the festival. Read something from the sciences. Read some of the weird fiction. Well, I want to read the weird fiction, but let's be honest. Let's find out what this festival's about. You are not surprised to find there's no published work on Emperor's Festival. Winters pokes around and finds a case monograph handwritten on yellowed paper by a Dr. Eniola Waski, an acquaintance of my father's, I believe, Winters says. The manuscript is somewhat difficult to read, and you make slow progress. They speculate that the festival has its origin in pagan rites, obviously brought over by Celtic settlers, which celebrate the ancient festivals of Beltane, Samhain, Imbolc, and I apologize if I am slaughtering these words, everybody, and Lughnasadh. There's some discussion of struggles between the seasons and a couple of oblique references to the alignment in Everhead. They suggest that the meaning of the festival slowly changed around the turn of the century. The monograph terminates mid-sentence at the end of the page, 28, just to begin to discuss the modern practices. You ask Winters if he has the remaining page. No, I'm afraid those have been misplaced. Perhaps they are still in the library somewhere, but, he shrugs, I must make the time for a thorough stock check. The afternoon wears on. You have not quite finished your reading when Winters glances out the window and stands up. He clears his throat. Make a credit rating roll. Well, so our credit rating is 30. And a 0-1 is super going to make that roll. This is great. If I succeed, go to 11. I'm happy to leave you in charge for a half hour or so, he says. Please don't issue any books out without a valid library card. You thank Winters for his trust and continue with your reading for a time. The light dims, you find yourself yawning in the closeness of the room. Perhaps it's time for a change of material. Ooh, time for a spot hidden roll. 50%. That is such a failure. This was probably something great I just missed. Yep, sometimes I can lose my place. It's true. Okay, if I fail. The door opens and Winter re-enters the library. He wears a small, satisfied smile. His gaze shifts to you where you stand at the shelves. Exhausted our stock already? Of course we accept donations, he chuckles. I'm afraid it's closing time. You leave the building with Winters and wait as he locks up. You thank him for the coffee and the access to the library. He strolls down Silbury Street. As the light fades, you return to Ledbetter House and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to you several times during the meal. There's an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Yeah, I think I can interpret it. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into the room. You have been in Emberhead for barely one whole day and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. You can do some stargazing, attempt to speak to Ruth, or if I have a previous appointment, which I do not. Let's talk to Ruth. Hopefully. In time, May returns in the kitchen and May returns to the kitchen and busies herself. She does not bruise herself, cleaning up. To speak to Ruth, you need to get May to leave for a short while. You help with the dishes and try to think of some ruse. In time, an idea comes and you ask about Silas and his friends in the village. Oh, there's a cat here. May narrows her eyes. He knows Troy on the other side of town, she says. Not sure I'd call them friends, more like old the feuding couple, but you probably spent last night at Troy's place. You ask May if she could visit Troy and ask if Silas mentioned any plans to return. May looks dubious. Right now, she asks. Without looking at your investigator sheet, decide how best to influence May, by appealing to her emotions, or explain how further delays threaten your career, or trying to rush her into compliance. Fast talk. Yeah. Which is 50%. Failure. Oh, I'm missing some rolls I'm sure would really help me out right now. I just don't think I'm meant to win this scenario. I think this is going to be like third time's a charm, and by charm I mean I'm dying and going insane. May frowns and shakes her head. I'll be happy to see him in the morning. I must see the Ruth for now. She's been a terrible handful today. Her bedroom door closes with a heavy clunk. Well, that was worst case scenario. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have a feel of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Emberhead? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie in the bed and stare at a small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking about the little details you spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevators and the fresh air. But do you feel safe here? If you let yourself fall asleep, go to 234. If you stay awake, go to 230. I mean, oh god, someone is trying to find me. Oh, and now we get the sound effect of a purring cat. You're welcome, everybody. You know, I think I'm going to stay awake. There's been too many people watching me. Otherwise, I'd feel like whatever. If they want to kill me, they'd kill me. But sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think through your situation. Everything in Emberhead seems to be working to stop you from leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that cannot be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention to the other side of the room. Ooh. What's on the other side of the room? Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning. To grab it and wrench the door open, go to 248. To pretend to be asleep, go to 254. We're going to pretend to be asleep. You slide onto the bed and lie with your eyes on your side, eyes closed. The hinges creak as the door opens. There is a long pause. A footfall sounds inside the room. Then another. The steps are careful and feminine. I think that's probably bullshit. You give it a moment, then open one eye a crack. May crouches with her back to you. She is fiddling with something in the fireplace. To confront May, go to 260. To wait to see what happens, go to 266. We can always confront her later, but yeah, let's chill. After another few moments, May glances round at you. Then you hear the soft scratch of a match being lit. She applies it to something in the grate and tiptoes from the room. Once you hear her bedroom door, you creep to the grate. A small mound of black powder, no bigger than a thimble, is burning in there. It gives off heady fumes. You may make a hard science roll. If you succeed, go to 76. Well, where is my science? Well, it says botany, which is not something I specifically took. I'll tell you what, if I got a 0 or 1, nope, 73 is definitely not going to do it. Well, I definitely want to relax and breathe the fumes out of curiosity. So we're going to stay awake through the night. The three options are extinguish powder and go to sleep, or stay awake through the night, or breathe them in. So we're going to stay awake because what the hell, May Ledbetter? You stare out the window and watch as the sun reaches the horizon, bathing the village in sickly orange. It has been a long night and you feel stiff and irritable. You rub your eyes. A few minutes later you hear May bustling in the kitchen, then the front door opens and closes. Make a con roll. If you fail, your skill rolls today suffer a penalty. So you'll be rolling things at disadvantage, basically. This does not apply to luck, sanity, or damage. Oh, what's my con? 50. Come on. Oof. Okay. Not great. We are exhausted. This is gonna get bad, y'all. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There's a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. If you were involved in a fight in a village last night, nope, I was not. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for the time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forth along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see two figures already up at its superstructure arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. Do you intend to stay and see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. When the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave the town without looking back. So I can go search May's bedroom, go alone to the village hall, take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, spy on activity in the beacons, slip down the east road and flee for good. Let's check out the courtyard, the artisan's courtyard. Because really, why were they so strange about that? You approach around the back of the buildings in Amberhead's northwestern corner, but this time in the morning you would expect activity in Artisan's courtyard, but the benches and anvils sit deserted. Your footsteps echo off the surrounding walls. One of the workshops is shut up and padlocked. You peek through the joints, but you can see nothing inside. We can try and crack the padlock, physically break into the locked one, or to move on to another area. Let's try and break in, because as much as I don't feel like that's going to work, I definitely don't know much about locks. You examine the workshop. It is well constructed, but the wood has been weakened by years of sun and rain. You may be able to break it open in one fierce charge. You better make it good, though. You can't afford to attract attention with repeated tries. Okay, we're making a strength roll. Whoops. And by making a strength roll, I mean I am going to drop my dice on the ground. Okay. Replacement dice. Making it at disadvantage. Sorry, the contrast on that dice is not the greatest. Well, that's not bad. We actually made it with a 19. I rolled a 17 and a 19. So, that's pretty cool. Okay, so where does that put me? Yeah, let's get in there. Probably where the horses are. It's probably not where the horses are. You push aside the door and step inside the workshop. The air is cool against your face, and you see light glinting through the eaves. The side of the room features a raised slab with a slight slope. An indentation beneath suggests that something sits there, a basin perhaps? Oh god. Prone shapes are racked against a far wall covered with red cloth. They look human. To investigate further, go to 250. If you've seen enough, go to 120. We're in this now. You approach the red-shrouded figures, expecting them at any moment to leap up and grab you. There are 3. Each has a label hanging from its toe. Benjamin Kramer, 1/19/1927. Abraham Hollingsworth, 4/22/1927. Marion Phipps, 8/6/1927. You lift one corner of the shroud. I am sorry about the incessant catting. You lift one corner of the shroud. Underneath, wrapped in tight bandages, is a thin but unmistakable human form. You are looking at 3 dead bodies. Embalmed dead bodies. And we are making a sanity roll. And a 40. Sanity is 16. Okay, so we made the sanity roll. But this is not the greatest. I never have actually seen these bodies before in this game. So, I thought you looked like a snoop. Like what you found, did you? A burly villager fills the doorway, blocking out much of the daylight. You can make out a dark apron and a thick beard. He steps forward, fist raised. To surrender without a fight, go to 108. To fight the artisan, go to 262. Well, this is going to go badly, but I'm not going to go down without a fight. You struggle with the huge man. His fists come out of the darkness like hammers. Sorry, just reading up on the stats of this fool. Dex of 41. Okay, so I'm going to go first at least. Oh yeah. This is not going to go well. You know what? I think after actually taking in account my physicality, we might go back on that. Yeah, we're not going to fight this guy. I'm sorry I lied to everybody. But once I actually looked at my stats, which, you know, honestly I feel like would be taking good account of, like, Well, I got these little nerdy fists that are just not going to do much against this ham hock of a man, so we're going to step back from that. My apologies, I've lost my spot. Okay, thank you. The fading light from a narrow window tells you your afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back, so you cannot even lie down in the rough bed. A woman you've not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They do not meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. I can drink or reject it, and I'm rejecting it. You turn your face away, and when she tries again, you dash the cup from her hand using the side of your head. The clear liquid spills across the floor. The woman gives a half shrug and turns and leaves the room. You shout after her, but she gives no reaction. You soon become thirsty. Boy, I sure wish I would have slept last night now. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally, an orange glow passes the window. The only comfortable position in the shackles seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There's clearly no escape from your bounds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you cannot ignore the fact that they have spent an entire day constructing a massive bonfire. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills into the house from the blazing torches held at the threshold. Two large villagers step in and grab you. At least, you assume they are villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks, and their face and hands are painted entirely black, save only for a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with the red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill fire. You struggle, but you can see physical resistance is hopeless. You're marched down to Central Street and turn to face the beacon. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see three human shapes carried ahead of you, draped in red cloth. Oh, I think we remember them. The beacon looms larger and larger, its dreadful silhouette a black triangle pointing to the stars. A low drone begins among the cloaked figures. Unbidden, the word mourners comes to mind. Smoke from the torches makes you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, three dancers break into the pack, young girls swinging balls of fire in spectacular arcs, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times, on the left cheek, right cheek, and forehead. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. We're making that appearance roll. Let's see if I look as good as I hope. With a 14, I do look as good as my hope. Well, whatever could my good looks have gotten me here? Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for our sake, says the second. I've weakened the chain, says the third. Don't try to escape until the flames are high enough to hide you. You stare at the third dancer. In the inky visage, you clearly discern the frightened features of Ruth Ledbetter. Their dance weaves off and disappears beyond the buildings. God damn it, Ruth. I'm sorry if I end up leaving you behind, but I'm even more sorry if I die, but thank you. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up with a blackened iron stair to the raised platform. You cannot help but shiver at the sight of the central framework, twisted from the past blazes and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for chain. None of the eyes meet yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from odd syllables. The second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange their burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin deep in a sea of kindling. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Behind the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter, and yes, that is Silas, the coach driver, standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on the dais and raises his hands with quiet authority. The frame of his spectacles obscures the red triangles on his face. So we draw here together again on this night, as we do each year, and we give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. You will be taken from the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our streets and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you. He bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter. As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops into an unearthly rhythm. To throw all your remaining strength against the bonds, go to 44. To wait and see what happens, go to 40. We're going to take Ruth's advice on this because nothing else is going well. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and becomes difficult to see the villagers. The 3 bodies surrounding you catch fire, blazing with sooty red flames. You begin to cough as the smoke enters you lung and fight down the urge to panic. If you've learned a strange chant and wish to try it, this is the moment. I have not. Otherwise, go to 65. Great. Flames lick at your legs. Your eyes water. You are shrouded in smoke. It might be your imagination, but you think you can feel a slight give in the change. You throw yourself against them, giving you no thought as to how they bite into your wrist. Take 1d6 hit points of damage from the fire. If this reduces you to 0, you collapse and are burned to death. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to take 3 hit points worth of damage. So that's going to put us at 6. Oh, we're going to make a strength roll. If you succeed, go to 93. If you fail, go to 77. Okay. We're going to be spending some luck points on this, I have a feeling. 81. My strength is 50. We are going to spend 31 luck points. We're going to spend 32, because I'm not sure if it has to be a low or not. So that's going to leave me with 29 luck, but, I mean, I feel if there's a time to use it, this has got to be it. So, I got a little lucky. Those chains were a little more weakened than I thought. Desperation lends you strength, and you yank at it. You guess to the weak point of chains, it breaks. You throw the chains off, stumbling across one of the red-shrouded corpses, heading away from the watching villagers. You cough. Your hair and eyebrows smolder. We're taking another 1d6 points of damage. 5. That leaves me with 1 hit point left. Oh. So we're going to 137. You leap into the conflagration on the far side of the beacon. Your heart lurches momentarily at the sight of the sheer drop beneath you, but you land a few inches short of the edge. You roll to extinguish your burning clothes. Your lungs feel singed, everything hurt. The chant of the villagers gather in intensities. You peer around the beacon. They don't seem to have noticed your absence amidst the billowing smoke. Most of them are staring into the sky. You crawl as rapidly as you can for the cover of the nearest building. With the villagers assembled at the beacon, the streets are empty and you're able to pad away from the blaze. You must get out of town before they finish. The chanting seems to accelerate as you round the corner of the southern road. Here, parked against the side of the general store, you have your first piece of luck since reaching Emberhead. A bicycle. You learned to ride one of these in Province. You settle into the saddle. Your burned flesh protests at the contract. To wait and observe the going on in the beacon, go to 168. To get out of town immediately, 185. Oh yeah, we're getting out of here. You take a moment to recapture the skill of riding a bicycle, but after the first turn east, there's a long downhill out of Emberhead. You hear screams and cackles above you, but concentrate on balancing and working the pedals in your weakened state. You've had too many hopes dashed in this abomination of a village. You keep your head down and ride away. 20 minutes later, with no sign of pursuit, you stop for a breather at the top of the hill. You can see Emberhead rise in the distance. The entire village appears to be ablaze. The dark column of smoke above it will be visible for many miles, but the village is as isolated as it seems. Help is unlikely to arrive in time. You watch the place burn for 5 minutes. Then you mount the bicycle again and rise towards civilization and dawn. Congratulations, you've survived this adventure. You may keep your investigator sheet and use it in another Call of Cthulhu scenario. Yada, yada, yada. Well, that was something. So, in all fairness, I don't believe I was supposed to actually be able to use luck in this scenario. So I might have cheated a little bit. But given my knowledge of actual Call of Cthulhu rules, that is how luck works, I don't feel that bad about it. That said, I got out of there with one singular hit point and a bicycle. My belongings are gone. I'm more than half dead. 8/9 dead, to be specific. So it could have gone better, but it certainly could have gone worse. I have had worse endings to this, and most of them have ended up with me catching on fire. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have a fight with that guy back there, because if he had hit me once, I'd be dead right now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed Alone Against the Flames. There is another Call of Cthulhu solo adventure out right now for 7th called Alone Against the Darkness? The Ice? No, Darkness. Which I might do next. That one's a little bit more involved and unlikely to be finished in a session. Virtue the Cat has opinions to give on that. But it's really neat the way they have it set up. So after doing this one, which was like nice and simple, just follow the path and choose your choice and make your dice rolls. Yeah, that one gives you, like, you have to do timekeeping and things like that. It's really quite interesting. So that might be something I do sooner rather than later. There is also been announced the Alone Against the Ice, which is a new Call of Cthulhu solo adventure coming out. And, you know, these are really fun. Even if you don't think that solo RPGs are for you, especially this one like Alone Against the Flames that doesn't get too involved, like, it does really well with making you feel the anxiety of the situation there and the hopelessness of it. I like that it's, it never is just like, and you're dead. It draws that out multiple steps as you wait to see what happens, you know? Which I appreciate. So it kind of keeps hope alive, but also gives a lot of time for the tension to build. So I hope you enjoyed this solo RPG podcast, and I hope you all have fantastic nights. You can find me on Twitter at CrumblingJames, or Facebook, facebook.com/CrumblingKeep. And yeah, I hope to do more of these. This was a lot of fun, and especially since it's currently October, there is a lot more spooky stuff to do. We'll talk to you later.